of earthquakes have hit Yellowstone National Park over the past week. The park is home to a massive supervolcano that could erupt at any time. So is the swarm warning us about a looming disaster. RT's Brigida Santos joins me live from Los Angeles with the details. So Brigida, how many earthquakes have hit Yellowstone this week?
Natasha, the U.S. Geological Survey has tallied up over 500 earthquakes in that area in the past week. Now, this swarm began on June 12th, and it is currently ongoing. Swarms are incredibly common in this area. In fact, they account for about 50% of all of the seismic activity in Yellowstone. And these are quakes that are ranging from 4.5 in magnitude to below zero. So I'm not sure whether there's much cause for concern right now. I do want to mention that this is a supervolcano with a thick continental crust that causes large buildups of magma, and it's capable of producing a magnitude 8 eruption on the volcanic explosivity index. That means the explosion could be 2,500 times larger than the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980, which is regarded as the largest and most deadly eruption in U.S. history. Now, I spoke with somebody, a scientist that oversees this Yellowstone area from the U.S. Geological Survey. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Yellowstone is an active system. It's had enormous eruptions in the past. It's had a lot of smaller eruptions. When you have an enormous eruption, you automatically get called a super volcano because you've had a super eruption. But Yellowstone has lots of different kinds of eruptions. And so even if Yellowstone does erupt, chances are it's not going to be anything that's devastating in consequence.
So there you have it, Natasha. He's not sure that a super eruption will take place, but it is possible that an eruption on a smaller scale could take place there.
And what is the likelihood, Brigida, that Yellowstone's supervolcano will erupt?
So this is a volcano that's erupted only 3 times in history. In fact, the first one was about 2 million years ago, followed by another one 1 million years ago, and most recently about 640,000 years ago. So it is due for an eruption based on that schedule. However, the scientists there did assure me that there's only about a 1 in 730,000 chance that we will see an eruption take place anytime soon.
All right, fascinating information. Thank you so much, Brigida Santos, live from our Los Angeles bureau.
Earthquake swarm reaches 878 events in just 2 weeks. This is an article available at Newsweek, also Yahoo. And I did some research. It's actually more than 800 earthquakes. But one thing that always sparks interest is when the title makes it sound very doomy. And then just a couple lines later, it's like, oh, there's no big deal. There's nothing to worry about. And I did some research, guys. It's hot in Yellowstone right now. It is extremely hot. I did some math, over 1,000 earthquakes the past 30 days and over 878 just the past 2 weeks. So when you break that down, let's say that there is 1,054. Well, let me show you this. Let's just do the math here. You see right here, if you go to the USGS website, volcanoes.usgs.gov, the monitoring instruments and data in Yellowstone is showing 1,054 earthquakes in the region. This is the past 30 days. And you can see the math right here. I picked 30 days, the magnitude, the range, 1,054. You times that by 12, you've got 12,648 earthquakes. Now, if we were to do if we wanted to take the current rate of 878 in 2 weeks, do the math on that. So you're talking 439 times 12. I'm sorry, 439 times 52. You would get $1 million. You would get 22,828 earthquakes. So if it keeps it up, folks, we're looking at 22,000 earthquakes over the next year. Now, is that normal? Well, it says here that after they've updated over 800 earthquakes around Yellowstone National Park, and many of these are an ongoing swarm taking place on the western edge of the park. Let me quote this. But there is virtually no risk of the volcano erupting. The United States Geological Survey currently lists the volcano alert level as normal, and the aviation color, which lists the potential risk to flights, is it green? Well, interesting, because if you do the math on this, and we have 22,000 volcanoes over the next year, what's the average? Well, approximately 1 to 3,000 earthquakes each year occur around the Yellowstone area. Most of those are not felt. This is directly from the nps.gov. So that means we have had around Yellowstone as many earthquakes in 2 weeks, just a little bit over 2 weeks, as the average in 1 year. And they say there's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about, folks. Just continue to suck down your diet soda, eat your genetically modified E. coli feces, take your Valium, take your lithium pills, take your fluoride drinks, and you'll be okay. Think about that. 1,000 to 3,000 earthquakes occur each year, approximately. We're on track to beat that 8-fold, 7-fold, if not more. Now, if you take a look at this chart right here, this gives you a perspective on what it would be like if there was a weak plume versus a strong plume. I think this was actually in Iceland. That Iceland volcano right there, that was a weak plume. If you compare that to a strong plume, you're going to have a lot more catastrophic situations. Now, I also wanted to go back to the online library.wiley.com that shows you the distance from the volcano, the average thickness of ash cover. And ash cover is a big deal. Last time I talked, I made it sound like it wasn't really that big of a deal in some areas. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for your... I've had people a lot more intelligent than myself say, Rex, it's a big deal, and here's why. Because it can get in your lungs, it can get in your body, it can collapse roofs. With rain, it gets heavy. It's a big deal. So my apologies for sounding as if it wasn't a huge deal in certain areas, when indeed it can be a big deal. And this isn't fear porn, you guys. This is the real deal. This is the data. So if you don't want to hear about it, please just turn it off and go watch something else. Go find something more contributive to do for society, yourself, your friends, your family. And if you don't have any of them, if you just got yourself, well, take care of yourself. Be well. Let's take a look here. Albuquerque. The average thickness is going to be 24.9 millimeters, which is about an inch thick. The minimum would be 4.1, the maximum 73. Now you divide 24, if you want to do the math, or you take 25.4 millimeters equals an inch. So we start looking through here. Atlanta should be okay. Austin should be okay. Billings is going to be in big trouble. Boise, it's going to fill it. Boise's going to fill it. I think that if you have the right model set up, if you're prepared, you should be able to weather the storm in Boise, if you're prepared. Calgary, it's going to get a little bit over an inch is the average. Could get more than that, definitely. These are models. These are, this is data that has been put together based on previous data and very fast-performing computers and intelligent people that put the models together as well. Casper, it's going to fill it. Casper is looking at 516 millimeters of an average. So you're talking about 20 inches. About 20 inches. Let me just double-check that real quick. 516. Divide that by 24 and a half. Yeah, about 21 inches. And that's the average. It could get a lot more. So Casper's definitely going to fill it. Cheyenne, it's going to get about 7 inches. Chicago, shouldn't be too intense. Denver, should be okay. Des Moines, yeah. I'm looking, Flagstaff, you're good. Kansas City, should be okay. Maybe a little bit over an inch. Average. Knoxville is not going to see much. Lincoln's going to see a little. Little Rock, here's another thing interesting. Little Rock, Arkansas, where all the banks are. Bank to human ratio is very bizarre out there. Not going to see a whole lot. LA, not a whole lot. LA's got other opportunities to deal with. Miami, not much. Minneapolis, you'll be okay. At least in ashfall, in my opinion. There's going to be a little bit. You got to be prepared for it. Missoula, it's going to get about almost 10 inches. average. Let's see here. Let's scroll through here a little bit more. Rapid City. Rapid City is going to get about 8 inches. So it's something that people will need to be prepared for. Now, if you've got a concrete dome bunker that was built by the military to store munitions, 10 inches of ash, even solidified, it will be able to withstand that much weight and then some. Although Rapid City is definitely going to fill it. St. Louis, according to these models, St. Louis, you should be okay. Salt Lake City is definitely going to fill it. You know, Salt Lake City is going to have more than Rapid City, and that's interesting because Salt Lake City, the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, has dumped billions of dollars into Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is a hub. It is a data center of multitudes. There's a ton of stuff going on in Utah and Salt Lake City. It's a lot like Denver. It's like Denver's little brother that you don't hear as much about. San Francisco, no, not much. Seattle, not much. Toronto, not much. DC, not much. Winnipeg, not much. So there you have it. There's some data for you. You know, keep an eye on the charts. Keep an eye on what's going on in Yellowstone. And now you know what to look for. And then if we come up here and you want to look at these charts again real quick before I close out, I want to share these charts with you just to give you an idea as well what the models look like in comparison. You know, Texas does have some good weather. It doesn't seem too intense. Texas has got a lot of good things going for it and a lot of bad things going for it, in my opinion. I don't want to be in Texas when an SHTF scenario goes down. I would much rather be in South Dakota, especially out there in southwest South Dakota in my bunker / studio. Although, you're going to have now here's another thing that I wonder. If it gets super intense like this, what's it going to do for the crops? What's it going to do to the atmosphere and the ozone with as bad a shape as it's already in? Now, this is showing the thickness results from a 3-day long Yellowstone eruption using 2001 wind fields. Now, here's another thing that they can do if this happens, is the government can manipulate the jet stream. So they can move where they want a lot of this stuff to go. And you guys know they know how to do that. They've been doing it for years. Look at the jet streams now versus 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It gets more bizarre by the day. So there you have it. Thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe, leakproject.com, also youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. Question everything. Make sure to also keep your eyes open if you're out there around Yellowstone. Think about that one more time. I just want to past 30 days, 1,000 earthquakes. So let's just take the 30-day model. 12,000 plus earthquakes. Be like 13,200 earthquakes approximately. That is at least 4 to 13 times the normal amount. There's literally been as many earthquakes the past 30 days as there has been in a whole year. Many years for an entire year. And they're saying there's no way that an earthquake could happen. Now, that's what actually made me question this even more. When I go back to this article here, and it says, after they have that title to spook you a little bit, so you'll click on it, then you read it, and then the second paragraph, but there is virtually no risk of volcano erupting. So, because they haven't raised the alert level, you're going to use that as the reason there's no risk? That's how these reporters work, you guys. I mean, Hannah Osborne, great reporter. I'm referring to the powers that be that use certain terms. Like, oh, we don't got anything to worry about because the government hasn't raised the levels yet. Well, do you think that because the government hasn't raised the levels yet, that you have nothing to worry about, even though you can specifically see that the levels have increased by at least 13 times, possibly 22 times, possibly 52 times the amount? Think about that. Almost 1,000 earthquakes in 2 weeks. So that'd be 500 a week. So over 20 times, I apologize. Over 20 to 25 times the amount. 2,500% increase in earthquakes. And there's nothing to worry about, folks. Don't worry about it because they haven't raised the levels yet. I would think about your opportunities right now if you're in that area. because you're going to have very little time if something goes down. So I would just be prepared. Like, I would have a game plan to get out of Dodge if you need to. It's good to do that in any situation, no matter where you live. There's always things that can happen. I'm not saying freak out about it. I'm saying be prepared, because if you're prepared, at least you have a chance. Now, I'm going up to South Dakota to X Point in August. I hope to see you guys there. Sturgis is going to be amazing. If you're interested in having an off-grid bunker set up, a place that you could go if things got really bad with many situations. And another thing I like about this place in South Dakota is it's not close to any nuclear reactors. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, literally. Yet, it's 20 minutes away from a small town, and it's 25 minutes away from the Black Hills, and it's 2 hours away from Sturgis. It's about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes approximately away from Mount Rushmore. It's beautiful out there, and you're not going to see cell phone towers every 5 feet, and Taco Bells, and Walmarts, and urgent cares, and liquor stores, and fast food joints, and strip malls, and neurolinguistic programming. I shouldn't say neurolinguistic. Neurological programming and neurolinguistic programming, transmitter, receiver, antennae. So anyway, welcome to the New World Order, ladies and gentlemen. The new New World Order, I should say. Question everything. Check out terravivos.com if you are interested in knowing more about X Point and these bunkers. They're like 2,000 square feet. They're made out of concrete, still enforced. They're awesome. And also, you've got a couple hundred feet approximately on each side of you for space, if you want to have some crops and stuff like that. Plus, these are big enough that you could actually have crops inside with some type of either hydroponics setup, or you could set up some type of fiber optics outside of there with a filtration system as well, and then water will be supplied to these via underground well. Robert has confirmed that, the founder of Terra Vivos. These things are going to be fitted with NBC filtration systems, nuclear, biological, chemical filtration systems as well. They're awesome, seriously. And I'm hoping that I can just go there whenever I want for my studio to get away from the grid, not because I need to. They're big enough that you could actually grow crops inside of the facility. And you could do, like I said, some type of hydroponic system or some type of setup to where the fiber optics would go outside with solar panels, or find a way to get light, which is information, I guess, back into your bunker. And if you've got like a trailer or a fifth wheel or a motorhome, you could park it right next to your bunker. You got motorcycles, you like to do the Sturgis event. Think how cool it would be to have a place 2 hours away with a beautiful motorcycle ride up to Sturgis and back. Hopefully nothing ever goes bad, so you can go to Sturgis every year and have a blast. Go to Mount Rushmore, Keystone. Go check out Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Awesome. Awesome area out there. Plus the radiation levels. For something bizarre, I'm just going to throw this out there real quick. The radiation levels are approximately 12 times higher once you get to the actual Devil's Tower. Like, I've got pictures of me next to Devil's Tower with my watch showing levels at 0.60 microsieverts per hour. Outside of the park, they were as little as 0.04. Very interesting, isn't it? So, there you go. Have a beautiful day. Question everything. And also, one other note I want to throw out there for you. Click on the Quick Bivy link, you guys. These things are like cheap. You can pick up a couple of them for, I think, $60, somewhere around there. They're awesome. And they will literally keep you warm, help keep you warm if you get in a situation where you need to stay warm and you weren't prepared. They fit in the palm of your hand. Literally, they're a few ounces. They fit in the palm of your hand. You could put it in your backpack, your glove box. You could put it under your car seat. You could put it in the center console. You could put it in your pocket. You know, some people like I literally know people that take bug out bags with them to work. I used to be that guy. And then I thought to myself, I'm 15 miles away from my house. Why do I need to take a whole bug out bag with me? I can walk home in I can run home in a couple hours if I need to. I could ride my bike to work in 45 minutes or less. 15 miles each way. I mean, I was in tune back in, when was that? 2011? Fortune 100 company. I'm divagating. I apologize. Those were the days when I worked for the corporate Borg. But I'll tell you, if you have to work for a corporate Borg, the corporate Borg that I worked for at the time was pretty cool. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you guys. LeakProject.com. Be excellent to each other and be the change you want to see.
0.4 earthquake has hit Yellowstone, Montana. Matter of fact, here we go. This has been the warning. Urgent warning. Sunday, earthquake possibilities. Now, good news is we've not had a mega quake of 6.0 or higher. We have had a 5.5 just a couple hours ago in the nation of Tonga, and it was very shallow, less than 10 kilometers. But Yellowstone National Park, right on that super volcano, we've had 3 earthquakes this afternoon. One was 3.0. It was less than 10 kilometers deep. The next one was 3.4. It was 3.4, and it was 10.1 kilometers deep. And then 2.8, that one was only 7.8 kilometers deep. 3 earthquakes this afternoon, all at Yellowstone National Park. And we just had a 4.9 moments ago in the Pacific Ocean. Now, there's been 30 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. But what I'm concerned about is this afternoon, 3 earthquakes, Yellowstone National Park, right on the super volcano, and a 5.5 in Tonga. Now, we know that, and a 4.9 in the South Pacific Ocean. Look, BP Earthwatch, who put out a great video 21 hours ago about the tremendous explosion, that burst of protons that came from the sun on Friday. I covered it. He covered it. He said yesterday, once he got a chance to read how fast the speed was, that it was Sunday that we were going to start to feel the impact. And here's the thing about it. According to spaceweather.com, this thing was lasted, this M2 class solar flare lasted for over 2 hours when it erupted on the sun, sending a burst, and I mean a burst, of proton, and then, but it was a long CME, progression. Now, here's what's going on. The sun, all of a sudden this afternoon, has the speed of the solar winds on the sun went enormous. They went from 312 kilometers per second to 613.5 kilometers per second. That is a blazing speed for the solar winds. And CME strike sparks a geomagnetic storm. Listen to this. The geomagnetic, and I'm going to try to get this a little closer here. Again, this is happening really in real time. The geomagnetic storms are underway today following that CME strike that hit. Auroras have been sighted in New Zealand as well as the United States, such as Washington State and Wyoming. Why do you think they're feeling the pressure there at Yellowstone? The storms are intensifying as the Earth moves into the CME's magnetized wake. They are currently category G2, which is moderately strong for a geomagnetic storm. But that is one thing, because we have a weakened magnetosphere around the Earth, because it's weakened. And don't ask me if CERN has anything to do with it. Has CERN caused the burn? I don't know. But this is very disturbing, very concerning for earthquakes. And as I said, this afternoon, ever since this has started to hit, we're just getting the start of it. So it looks like it's going to carry on into the night, into tomorrow. We're just getting inundated with this thing. It was a 2-hour solar burst from the sun. It's one of the longest solar flares we've seen in years. Not the biggest, but the longest in years, even though this is a solar minimum, even though the sunspot AR2665 was not supposed to be that big of a deal, but it got huge. It got huge. Now the wind speeds are racing through the open hole, and the burst that we already received on Friday, but it released from the sun, we are feeling it right now. Warning, urgent warning, possible earthquakes anytime through this evening, into the night, into the early hour, and sometime into tomorrow. The next 24 hours, very, 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 very urgent. So we want you to stay awake on that. And already it is Yellowstone that is shaking and quaking. The devil's back is breaking. So tonight, don't miss Sunday Night Live. Starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. Are you serious? 7 p.m. Eastern at my website at www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. The expert who will help us in this. Look, Dutch Sense is watching us close. Suspicious Observers watching us close. Mike from around the world's watching us close. Pastor Paul Begley's watching us close. But BP Earthwatch is watching it very close and will be with us tonight live on Sunday Night Live. You don't want to miss it. This will be a powerful show, no doubt about it. And people are getting saved at unbelievable numbers as recently, and we believe God is moving. I think folks understand the signs are in the heavens, and we're experiencing it right down here on earth. I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. My website, www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. Also, new live stream, Roku satellite, Periscope, and even right here on this YouTube channel, Blog Talk Radio. What?
Earth's surface is melting away the asphalt. Park officials have closed the 3-mile-long roadway known as Firehole Lake Drive and have asked visitors to park on the sides of the road. Park officials warned that stepping on the seemingly solid asphalt could create an illusion, and you could quickly find yourself stepping into hot water. Literally. Park officials say it's basically turning the gravel into oatmeal. This roadway is the main access to such geysers as Old Faithful, the Great Fountain, White Dome, and of course, Firehole Lake. Maintenance teams will now remove the melted asphalt from the roadway and apply sand and lime to absorb the rest. And they hope to have that road open again by next week.
Joining us now is Derek Pitts. He's the Chief Astronomer and Planetarium Programs Director at the Franklin Institute Science Museum in Philadelphia. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning.
So you're here to scare us.
Absolutely.
It's 2.5 times the size of what we thought.
Yes.
How significant is that?
Well, it's really significant because the magma chamber below Yellowstone, it measures about 55 miles wide, 20 miles in length, and it's 6 miles below the surface. This chamber is absolutely packed full of magma, and an eruption from this could really cause widespread destruction all across that region.
As if that was not scary enough, some of the experts now are saying they have no idea when this eruption could take place.
Yeah, there are plenty of earthquakes that happen out there, as you said a little bit earlier, but those earthquakes are indicative of the activity that's going on below ground. Some of it may be caused by water intrusion and other things like that, but the fact of the matter is that there were 3 eruptions of this region before. There's definitely going to be another one in the future. Scientists just can't tell when.
When you say future, though, the reality is this could be real, like 40,000 years future. Is that right?
Be. Yeah, it really could be. We have no idea, though, but there will always be adjusting earthquakes in that region, so that region will remain silent seismically active. It will also be volcanically active. There will be small volcanic eruptions in that region. It's just the big one that people really have to be concerned about. And if we can get the science a little bit more refined, we'll have a better idea of when we might have some ballpark idea of when to expect something might happen.
Okay, so now you're starting to comfort me a little bit, because I was going to ask you here, I was going to say, are we going to get any warning, like maybe a century or so, that this thing's coming?
The really cool thing about how science is working in seismology and volcanology these days is that scientists can really model the area well, because there are seismic detectors, 40 of them, all around the region, measuring in different ways, and essentially taking an X-ray, if you will, of the ground below, so that they can figure out what's going on better and have a better way to get a grip on how to say when something could possibly be coming.
How were the earlier estimates so undervalued? I mean, how come scientists didn't realize how big that well was?
Well, it's very difficult to have any idea of what's going on underground. I mean, we're looking at something that is 6 to 9 miles below the surface of the Earth. It's enormous. We never thought that the magma chamber could be that big, and so we didn't know what the parameters were around which we had to measure. But now that there are so many more sensors coming to the site to be used, you know, the advances in technology and model making and things like that help scientists to get a better picture, so we have a better idea, more accurate than in the past. Sort of 30,000 years ago was measured to be about 2,000 times greater than the Mount St. Helens eruption. 2,000 times bigger. That's enormous. It's enough to, the last eruption spread 10 feet of ash in regions 1,000 miles away. So that's a pretty big eruption.
I mean, Yellowstone National Park is also located in a really seismically active region, isn't it?
Well, you have to think that the whole region essentially is the basin of an ancient volcano, under which is this enormous sort of chamber of magma that's causing the region to heat.
Are releasing a new warning about the threat of a massive supervolcano eruption, like the one under Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. The European Science Foundation has released a 70-page report called Extreme Geohazards, Reducing the Disaster Risk and Increasing Resilience. It references the Yellowstone supervolcano. Now, Yellowstone's volcano doesn't look like some others because it's a caldera, or a crater. It's around ground level instead of towering into the clouds. But scientists say it covers a really enormous reserve of magma beneath the Earth's surface. We have a rendering of what scientists say is underneath that volcano, an ocean of molten rock, they tell us, that stretches for hundreds of miles. Of course, nobody needs to freak out right now at all. Scientists say there's only about a 10% chance of an eruption like this happening anytime this century. So there's a good chance you'll never see it. But 10%, I mean, that's not tiny. And the U.S. Geological Survey noted last year, even if Yellowstone does erupt, it could be a small incident, not some Armageddon type thing. Michio Kaku joins us now. He's a theoretical physicist, a professor, a best-selling author, and friend of the program. Give us some context on this, what we're talking about here.
Well, forget the image of Yogi Bear representing Yellowstone. We're talking about a sleeping Godzilla underneath Yellowstone that, if it erupts in a maximum eruption called Category 8, it could literally tear the guts out of the United States of America. Instead of having 50 states of the Union, we would only have 30 states of the Union. Now, that's Category 8. This report looked at Category 7, which is much more likely once every 1,000 years rather than once every million years. That means in every century, there's a 10% chance that somewhere on the planet Earth, there could be a supervolcanic Category 7 eruption. That's the danger.
You just talked about a volcano that could wipe out 20 states. How in the world is that possible?
Well, it's happened before. 2.1 million years ago, 1.3, and also 0.6 million years ago. We have the evidence of a gigantic eruption that is sufficient to tear the guts out of the U.S. of A. So this report has to be taken seriously, but hey, don't sell the store, don't panic. We don't expect it to happen in our lifetime.
It's hard really to imagine this lake of lava that stretches hundreds of miles in all directions. How do we know that, and how do they read that?
Well, just 2 years ago, there was a scare, in fact. We actually began to measure the size of this lava hotspot, and it turned out to be twice as big as we previously thought. However, the good news is that it's not migrating, it's not moving. We've seen no indication whatsoever that a big one is coming. However, eventually the law of averages catches up to you. And this report singled out Mount Vesuvius outside Naples, Italy, outside Mexico City, and Yellowstone as 3 hotspots where a Category 7 volcanic eruption could indeed take place in this century.
So there are only 3 of this size in all the world?
Well, there's several in Indonesia and New Zealand that have had Category 8 eruptions, in fact. But then again, we're talking about once every million years for Category 8. Category 7 will be many times the size of Mount St. Helens, enough to cause widespread destruction across a state, but not enough to destroy the US of A. But still something that we have to take very seriously now.
What would we get in the way of warnings, Michio?
Well, unlike a meteor from outer space, where you get no warning whatsoever, we get warnings. If you've seen movies like Pompeii, you know that there are days, in fact weeks, of eruptions building up, grumbling inside, underneath the ground, near the pocket of lava. So there would be enough time, several weeks, in order to begin evacuation if and when such an unlikely event were to take place.
All right, Michio Kaku on the news deck. No time to panic, but interesting, very interesting. Thank you.
Well, throughout history, massive volcanic eruptions have had damaging effects to our planet and its people. Well, scientists at NASA are now trying to prevent future events, which they say may just be the only way to save the human race. RT's Trinity Chavez explains. Supervolcanic eruptions have had some devastating effects on our planet and all those on it. Therefore, experts at NASA are working on some risky strategies to prevent one from happening, since we may be on the brink of one erupting very soon. Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming is famous for its tranquil geysers and hot springs. But beneath its beautiful surface of the park lies a massive volcanic chamber that could be on the verge of exploding. According to the United States Geological Survey, 3 extremely large explosive eruptions have occurred at Yellowstone in the past 2.1 million years, with a reoccurrence interval of about 600,000 to 800,000 years. The most recent took place 640,000 years ago, suggesting that Yellowstone is overdue for an eruption. But outlets like geysers and hot springs at the park can bleed out some heat, delaying the inevitable eruption. And when NASA experts analyzed the problem, they thought the most logical solution would be to cool the volcano down. NASA has a plan to drill a hole into the side of the volcano and pump water through it. When the water comes back out, it'll be heated to over 600 degrees, slowly cooling the volcano. The team hopes that given enough time, this process will take enough heat from the volcano to prevent it from ever erupting. According to the BBC, Brian Wilcox, a former member of the NASA Advisory Council on Planetary Defense, talked about the actual devastation that could come from an eruption and the risky techniques that the agency is considering for preventing one, including ways that could potentially set one off. The possible plan would drill into the bottom of the Yellowstone volcano using high-pressure water to release heat from the magma chamber. But Wilcox said this could be very risky. He told the BBC this can make the cap over the magma chamber more brittle and prone to fracture, and you might trigger the release of harmful volatile gases in the magma at the top of the chamber, which would otherwise not be released. Although NASA is considering other plans, it seems that cooling down the volcano could work even though it's a risky process. And it's not cheap either. The plan would be around an estimated $4.5 billion. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Enormous fissures are opening up around the world. Another one has been spotted south of Yellowstone at the Grand Teton National Park. 2 very popular tourist destinations, Hidden Falls and Inspiration Point. I think it's Inspiration Point. Let's zoom in here. Yep, Inspiration Point have been closed due to a 100-foot-long fissure discovered by park rangers. Now, this fissure has literally caused enough concern to shut down 2 of the most popular spots at the Grand Teton National Park. June of this year was the 2nd most popular year on record for Yellowstone National Park, which is just north of Grand Teton. And oftentimes, if you're going to Yellowstone, you're driving through the Grand Tetons to get there, unless you're coming north. So the most popular way is usually through Jackson Hole, the Grand Tetons. It's a beautiful drive. And when I took that route, coming from San Antonio, went through Utah, went through Idaho, then Wyoming, the southern part, did the majority of the loop. And gorgeous, beautiful weather, blue skies, the animals were acting completely normal. One thing that I did find interesting and really made me want to go out there even more, though, was the Steamboat Geyser that's erupted 11 times over the past 4 months. Before that, it erupted 10 times over a course of 28 years. Now, somebody left a comment that back in the 60s, there was a substantial amount of activity at the Steamboat Geyser, so I need to do more research into that, and then I will follow up with a podcast. Now, as you can see right here, this is very interesting. Mr. MBB333 did a podcast on this. And then Mary Greeley and Suspicious Observers. Well, that's a different podcast. But it's nice to see some alternative news really pick up the ball on these geographical anomalies that could be the canary in the coal mine. That could be the sign to say, hey, be prepared, get ready. I literally just ordered two more supplies, or 2 more 70 mil packs from My Patriot Supply. They're doing $67 specials right now for 70 mils. That's like 2 weeks worth of food for $67. Plus, it's got a 25-year shelf life. And hopefully things are going to be fine, folks. I think it's always good to prepare because you know how Murphy's Law ties in with Murphy being an optimist. So it's always better to be prepared. Check them out if you are interested. Just click the link, My Patriot Supply. Okay, now, check this out. Yellowstone sees second busiest June on record. Literally, Yellowstone, the largest volcano in the world, actually the second largest, there's one in India that's supposed to be bigger. The second largest volcano in the world is one of the most popular tourist destinations. Hawaii is still dealing with horrific effects from Kilauea, from that volcano. The Indonesia volcano is having some substantial activity. There's 2 volcanoes in Alaska with substantial activity. Cleveland and, I can't remember the name of the other one. Fuego of Guatemala. Activity out there. Japan. Crazy flooding going on in Japan. I couldn't have gotten to southern Colorado at a better time. I am so glad to be out of a big city. Can you imagine being in a big city and trying to go to the grocery store if a serious catastrophe such as Yellowstone erupting, or like look at Houston. I mean, I wasn't far from that. I was having to deal with the gas shortages in Texas. And even though that wasn't that bad, it was really bad for a lot of people at the time. People were freaking out. And I wasn't freaking out, but I was definitely seeing some signs of alarm because I'm looking at the long-term effects. If just a few days of no gas is going to cause people to do what they did in Texas, imagine what would happen if you couldn't get food for a few weeks, or if people couldn't get food for a few weeks because they weren't prepared. What are they going to do? I mean, watch these videos where people go into these Black Friday specials and they punch people in the face that are twice their age. They're walking around on walkers to get a TV that's on sale. It's insane. The animalistic instincts come out in people. It's wicked, especially when you have groups together. Did you know that the group IQ oftentimes will lower by at least 10 points? The studies that they've done. It's insane, but watch a ball game and you'll get the point. It's like this, we've talked about frequencies and such. It's like this frequency, this vibrational frequency that ends up taking over everybody else in the crowd because it becomes this like group archetype. And the alpha frequency ends up taking over. And unfortunately, oftentimes, the alpha frequency isn't the most intelligent. It's, you've got 50 people out of a crowd of, or let's just say 80 people out of a crowd of 85, and those 80 people have lower vibrational frequencies, and so they're all jiving. So the higher vibrational frequencies, people that are more intelligent, oftentimes those people won't even be there, but if for some reason they are, their IQ will lower, and they'll get stuck in that trap. Not always. If you're a Leak Project listener, you probably won't even be in that situation, and if you are, you'll probably find a way to get out before things get nasty, because that's just how you roll. I'm just saying. So good for you. Second busiest season on record. Steamboat Geyser. Oh yeah, let's go take a look at Steamboat Geyser here. It just erupted a few days ago too, and they didn't have much media coverage on this. I didn't see any media coverage on it. I had to find it on the Yellowstone's website. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, it just erupted the other day again. So let's see here. Scroll down. Starting from 1990, 91, 2000, 2002. You can see here timelines, and then March 15th to July 6th. Look at that, 11 times. Now, previous, let's do this. Let's type this in. How many times did Steamboat Geyser erupt in the 60s. Okay, Steamboat Geyser in Yellowstone National Park is the world's tallest geyser. Okay. Shooting more than 300 feet into the air sometimes. That's one powerful stream, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Hello. 5 times. Okay, so, yes. No, it's not what I wanted to know. 1960s, here we go. It's not here. Where is it? I'll find out. I'll get back to you on that. Durr. Let's see here. Check this out. Caldera. Let's take a look here. Okay, so elevation 9,200 feet. Boom. So there's the state of Wyoming, and there's the lava underneath it. There's the magma. We just look at it. Now, hopefully, because it's heating up, there's no question. There is absolutely no question it's heating up. There's no question the activity is getting hotter out there. When I say it's heating up, I'm just referring to the activity. So here's the earthquakes in Yellowstone National Park region from 73 to 2014. You can see that looks like about a 10-year difference there. There's some pretty substantial spikes. And this goes to 2014. Why not show us 2017? Because in 2017, it was hot. This is cool. I like this. Because this is a track. You're tracking this over 16 million years. And you're looking at the hot spot of the volcano. And you can see how it started. And it looks like it was over here in Utah. Moved over into Idaho. Through Idaho, now it's up into Wyoming. Close to Montana. And if you want to take a look at the ash maps, if you want to get some good ash, you should check out the ash map, the Yellowstone projections, and they're basing that data off of previous wind models. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy the amount of ash fall. So I'm thinking, let's just say there's a little blurb out there. Not even anything serious if you look at it in reference to how serious it could be. Well, I mean, how much of the infrastructure would be halted? Would martial law, I mean, these are just questions I'm asking myself, and I'm sure you've probably asked yourself this question too. Would martial law be put into play? Would this be a way for a new system to be brought into the limelight? Like maybe, okay, food resources, water, food, energy, medicine, vitamins, products to keep you warm and safe. Well, now those are going to be at a much higher demand and a lot more difficult to produce, because if you've got a volcano of this magnitude erupting, you're going to have problems all over the world. I mean, you're going to have product transportation issues. It's going to get nasty. So then it would be easier for a government to implement a martial law system, curfews. Okay, you're only allowed this much water. You're only allowed this much food. You can only travel at this time. You need to have your papers. You need to have proof of ID. I mean, this could be something that would be beyond anything we have seen before, depending on how long you've been alive. Anything I've seen before. I mean, if you had to go through Vietnam or World War II, or if you've lived on, in places around the world that have seen horrific things that have been talked about, then I'm not talking about you necessarily. For me, if Yellowstone, it's just weird, the synchronicities too, because the film 2012, the getting out there when I did, and as busy as it was at the time that it was, Charlie Frost, I've been referenced as Charlie Frost so many times I don't know whether to take that as an insult or a compliment. I think the guy's great personally, but I don't know what that person's thinking. It's just, and then I go out there and stay with me here, I'm sure you are, just weird synchronicities that you probably have as well that make you think more about things. So the night before I get to Yellowstone,
at the hotel. I'm not even in Wyoming. I'm still in Utah. The TV series Yellowstone comes on. I mean, I wasn't even looking for it. I'm flipping through the channels. It pops up. Kevin Costner's on Yellowstone. I'm like, oh, wow, that's an interesting synchronicity. And I haven't seen the series. I just watched part of that episode, and it was kind of, had the drama and the... Anyway, so not necessarily my cup of tea, but I might start watching it just to see how it starts from the beginning. I mean, if you like that sort of thing, I'm sure you'd really enjoy it. Anyway, so not criticizing the series in any way. It's just not really my forte. But it's just interesting that the night before I go to Yellowstone, that TV show pops up. It's not like I was in Yellowstone and it came on, because that would be a little bit different, out of the area. And just the weird connections, the timelines, the amount of people that were there. But I felt good about it when I got there because, first of all, yes, there were enormous amounts of dead trees. And a lot of the dead trees were from the fires from '88, but there were certain areas that the trees that were dead were not from the fires. They were from beetle kill or from other anomalies, maybe certain dis-ease or things that harm those trees. And many of us have speculated, could it be the stratospheric aerosol injections and the aluminum and the barium and the pollutants that are causing the immune systems of certain trees, especially at specific elevations and specific types of trees. I was going to say strands, but specific types of trees, their immune systems weaken more because of the SAIs, the stratospheric aerosol injections. Now, these are just questions that I have asked and many others have as well. And combine that with the position of our planet next to the sun, the global cooling, or the grand solar minimum that we're getting to, where we're seeing cooling and crazy temperatures of extreme heat and extreme cold. So it's like expand, contract, expand, contract. I mean, no wonder these fissures are opening up around the world. Like the one that's a mile long in Arizona, or something ridiculous like that opened up about a year or two ago, that isn't talked about much in the media. It's happening all over the world. The volcanoes in Antarctica that are underneath the ice sheets are literally causing the ice sheets to melt. And that was discussed in a podcast and from some research essays and white papers that I presented to you just a short while ago as well. And if you've missed these podcasts, go back just to the youtube.com/clandestine time lord. Go back to the YouTube channel and just type those words in, those key words, and the podcast will come up. And for some reason, a lot of people, it seems like almost daily I'm reading at least one comment where someone says they go to the videos and they're getting no sound. So I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. So if that's the case, if you go to leakproject.com, all the podcasts are there, and there's, I would say, 200 or so more podcasts that are only available at leakproject.com that are exclusive to the website. So make sure to go there if you want to listen to that podcast, and you can sign up to the website, and you can even download the podcasts. You can stream them. You can do it for $10 a month or $50 for the whole year. So, and your support definitely helps Leak Project grow, helps me continue to do research so that I can bring it to you. If you don't have time to do research, but you want to stay updated. 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, 630,000 years ago. The caldera, it's showing the hot spot, the plateau. So let's click on this again. I want to look at this in conjunction to, okay, so the national park here. Now let's go outside of the park. And you go south just a ways here, an inspiration point. Now I want to show you this. This is interesting because let's add another, okay, Steamboat Geyser. I love Google Maps. Yes, let's go. So check it out. Here's Steamboat Geyser. You get a ruler from here to here. Hello, McFly. Bingo. Hey, if that bingo drives you nuts, I get it. But how else do I get my point across? I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's... Wow. So cracks, 100-foot wide, or 100-foot long fissure, I should say, 100-foot long fissure has opened up just south of Steamboat Geyser that continues to erupt at an unprecedented level event. And folks, that's okay. You don't need to worry about it. And I'll tell you why you don't need to worry about it. Because you've got basketball on TV. You've got high definition that you can watch. You can go to a ball game. You can go to a movie. You can go to a Star Yucks. You can You can live your life and do whatever you want. And there's nothing to worry about, because if something does happen, the powers that be, the MFers, are going to want to spend their money to protect you and to save you. They're going to come to your house and save you. They're going to bring you food and water and everything you need, because you're not going to be able to get it, because you might not be able to get it at the grocery store. They will totally take care of you. If ash falls down upon your house and your garden and other crops to where people can't get food because the crops are dead, it's okay, because they will come personally protect you and get you out of that situation, right? Maybe not. Maybe they might happen. I mean, if you're not prepared, hopefully it'll happen. Wow. This did capture my attention. I heard about it last night, and I was just so drained last night, and I was supposed to have an interview, and we had to reschedule, that I said, look, man, I got to get some sleep. I'm going to look into this some more tomorrow, and here you go. So there you have it. Isn't this exciting? Kind of at a loss for words here for a moment, because I'm just thinking of the implications. If this happens, it's going to get exciting, because you can make ash angels after that. That's it. Yeah, let's look at the good news. After all the ash falls, or some of the ash falls, you can go outside, just make sure you got a mask on, right? Have yourself a full hazmat suit on, and you can make yourself ash angels. You'll probably make some interesting acquaintances, because people probably won't. Like, just jump into that scenario for a minute. Do you think that these scenarios have been forecast and predicted and projected? Of course they have. Now, why don't you put yourself in that scenario for a minute and imagine the gas stations are shut down, the grocery stores are shut down, the department stores, the fast food, the banks, virtually every store closed down. The roads, inaccessible. I mean, you can get on the roads, but they're full of ash. You can't see because of the sun's blocked.